The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everybody, and thank you so much for attending today's webinar, Getting More from M1 Keypads. My name is Jessie Bumgarner, and I am the Marketing Coordinator here at ELK. And with me today is Amy Strickland. Some of you may have talked to her in the past. She works in our tech support department, and she also assists us in marketing, such as our webinars. Throughout the webinar, if you have questions, please type your question in the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. We will get to as many questions as we can during the webinar. We have a lot of material to get through today. So if we don't answer your question at the end of the webinar, we will answer them in our follow-up email, which will be sent out probably around Monday or so, that Amy will send out to you guys with the PowerPoint, the link to the recording, and any all the questions that have been asked today will be in that email with the answers, and then other useful literature will be attached to the email. But before we move on into the webinar, we wanted to ask some questions. Our first question is, what is your experience level with the M1 control system? We're just trying to know about our audience. So have you installed 1 or 2? Have you installed more than 3? Or are you not even familiar with the ELK M1 control system? So we're just trying to figure out who our audience is today. And a lot of you guys have installed an M1 system. So that's great. And then there's a few of you that haven't even worked with M1 before. So welcome to our webinar. I hope you guys learn a lot. So I'm going to be closing this in a few seconds. So I love that a lot of you guys have dealt with the M1, and if you haven't, you can see on our screen, these are our keypads that we offer. We have 6 total. We have the KP Nav, which is our touch screen. Our original style keypad is our KP and the KPB. And then for different tastes, we've offered the KP2 and the KP3. They all have the LCD display. And then the KPAS is our arming station, where you can put into your master bedroom or the office. So it's very all over. You got your different options. And in addition to the keypads, we have created a comparison chart for you. We will be sending this chart to you in the follow-up email, so you have it for your reference at all times. But a great thing about our keypads is that you can mix and match. You don't just have to have all KP Navs or KP2s or whatever. You can mix and match throughout the home or business. So it's great. Another question that we want to ask is, what is your favorite keypad? Since we do have 6, you can see there's only 5, but the KP and the KPB are all in the same answer. What is your favorite keypad? I know for me, I like the touch screen, but I do like the original style with the KPB with the blue screen. They're all really nice. And then the KPAS, it's so functional. Just leave it in my bedroom. Oh, forgot to turn off my keypad. Oh, it's right there in my room. So a lot of you guys like the Navigator, and a couple of you guys like the KP, KPB, and the KP2. Thank you guys so much. So I'm going to pass this along to Amy, and she will talk to you more about setting up keypad addresses.
Thank you, Jessie, and thank you everyone for attending today. We're just going to go ahead and jump right in. We've got a lot of material to cover, so the next thing that we want to talk about is setting keypad addresses. And so on the screen here, I'm showing you the steps to do that, but I'd also like to, if you can see, I've got a little webcam going here where I'm going to actually step you through this process on this keypad, so you can follow along with the presentation or with the video or both. To enter the addressing menu, we're going to press and hold the star key for about 10 or 15 seconds, and any beeps or tones that we hear from the keypad during that period of time we're just going to ignore. And as you can see, this seems like a really long time that you're holding this button in, but eventually the display will change, as you see here. Exit when done, F1 set address. So now I will press the F1 key, and the current address is going to be shown. Now this particular keypad already happens to be set to address 2. If I wanted to change that address, I can use my up and down arrow keys to make those adjustments. And then when I'm done, I'm going to press the exit key twice. If you've changed the address on the keypad and it's not currently enrolled, you are going to get a display showing the keypad address and lost COM. That means the keypad's ready for bus module enrollment, which can be completed from an existing keypad or from your programming software. So just wanted to quickly go over that because we do get a number of phone calls on how to set that keypad address. So that's how it's done. And that applies to what you're seeing in my webcam is the KPB. Those steps apply to all of the LCD keypads. The navigator works very similarly. Instead of holding the star key, you're holding the clear button, and then it, because it's a touchscreen, is going to give you, visual instructions on what you need to do there. It's pretty straightforward on the navigator. So that's how you set your keypad address. Next, let's talk about the zone inputs and outputs that are available from the keypad. The keypads offer a zone input, which is a programmable zone, and they also offer a 12-volt 50 milliamp output, which is good for driving things like LEDs and relays, that sort of thing. The address of the keypad is going to determine what the zone number and the output number of that zone input and output off the keypad are. There's a little chart here on the screen to show you that, but again, keypad 1 starts at 193, and then you're going up from there. So you might want to use your keypad input if you have a door near the keypad and maybe you didn't run wire back to the control for that, or you just want to have that shorter run for convenience. You may also use that for request to exit devices and access control applications. And then of course with the output, it's either going to be something like an LED or relay, that sort of thing, something that does not draw more than 50 milliamps of power. That's what's available there. Now off of the keypad harness, your output is going to be your brown wire, and that's switched positive. Your input is your blue wire, and then your black, which is your negative for the data bus, is also the common negative for your output and your input. Our keypads also feature an input for proximity reader. Now again, the keypads that feature that would be the KP, the KPB, the KP2, and the KP3. So on the KP and the KPB, we're looking at the back of that particular style keypad right now, and you'll see that there's a connector labeled J2. It's a 5-pin connector, and that's for your access device input. That can be a proximity reader or an access keypad. It does need to be a 26-bit weakened output from that device, so that's what you're looking for there. We offer the UltraProx, or 106055 part number, as an external proximity reader, but then you can also use products from another manufacturer. So if you wanted to use an access keypad, an outdoor type keypad, you may get one of those from another manufacturer. We do offer the M1 PR, which is an internal proximity reader that only works with the KP and the KPB. You can see here in this top picture there's a place inside of that to house the reader itself, and that works with our cards and fobs that we offer. So you can either use an external device using the wiring harness or the internal proximity reader with the KP and the KPB. Now, alternately with the KP and the the KP2 and the KP3, those keypads have a different connector and require a different wiring harness. You can see in the image there that the connector is a 2-pin connector, and that is just the data for your reader. So with these particular models, the KP2 and the KP3, you can only have an external proximity reader. So that internal device we were looking at on the previous slide would not work with those 2 keypad models. However, you can use an external internal device like the 106055 or a 26-bit Wiegand device from another manufacturer. Because it's only the data on the back of the keypad, you're either going to be pulling the power from your red and black wire off the data bus or from a separate power supply when you're using a reader with this keypad.
Amy, I have one question. If
Okay.
you have multiple keypads, can you have internal proximity readers in each?
Yes. Yes, you can.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and so I've got a diagram on the screen now that is just a very basic access control example. We've got a KPB keypad, so we're using our larger W035A wiring harness to hook up a 26-bit Wiegand device. You can see here how that would be wired. And then we're also using our input and output off of our keypad harness. The output is driving an ELK 912 relay, which is switching power to the locking mechanism. We have a separate power supply for that. And then we've also got the blue wire connected to a request to exit a normally closed device with our 2.2K resistor. And so, in this example, we're making use of all those things that we were just covering on these keypads with your input, your output, and your access connection there. Sorry. So I've also got some rule examples here. These are very straightforward examples. You can certainly get a little bit more complicated than this if you need to have time frames and that sort of thing. But you can see here I've specified that this is keypad 3. And so from our chart we were looking at before, we know that that is zone 195 and also output 195 available based on that address. So we're basically saying whenever we have an access entry at this particular keypad, then we're going to turn that output 195 on for 15 seconds, and that's going to unlock the door. We also have a request to exit rule there with our zone 195 input. When it becomes not secure, we're also turning on that same output to unlock the door. And so before I move on, just to tie back into the question that Jesse was asking a moment ago, you can have different, different keypads can each have their own reader, and by this rule, we're specifying which keypad is going to turn on which output, and so that's how you can control access for different points. Now, the system supports up to 16 keypads, therefore it could have up to 16 access points or readers. The next thing we're going to go over is the chime feature of the keypad. The keypad has a chime button. Each keypad has that. The exception would be the arming station. It doesn't have a chime button, but all the other keypads can turn the chime feature on and off. It has 4 modes. You have a tone mode, which is going to produce sounds out of the keypad. Voice mode, which is going to provide voice announcements out of output 1. You can have a combination of the two where you're getting the tones from the keypad as well as the voice from output 1, and then the chime can just be turned off. Zones, each zone has an attribute to follow the chime or to not, so you can only have the chime turned on for the zones that you want it to be on. If there's a zone that you don't want to ever hear the chime feature when the chime's on, say for instance a motion detector that you're just walking by all the time, you don't necessarily want to have chime enabled on that, so you can turn that on and off per zone. The chime tones that come out of the keypad follow the keypad volume setting, and the voice announcements that are part of the voice feature of the chime follow the non-alarm voice volume. You find the keypad volume setting in the keypad portion of programming, and the output 1 non-alarm voice is found in the globals. And the keypads themselves can be excluded from the tone portion of the chime feature by selecting no chime, and again that's found on the keypad portion of programming. That would prevent that keypad from chiming. So you can see in the screenshot example that I have here where that keypad is selected as no chime. I've also got that selected as silent on entry delay. That's an example that you might see in, say, a master bedroom where you don't want to have those sounds that might wake someone up. The next thing that we're going to talk about is the internal temperature sensors. Now only the M1 KP and M1 KPB offer the internal temperature sensor feature. Again, those are the larger keypads like the one that you see in my webcam shot. So if you want to show the temperature reading of that sensor on the keypad, you can simply select Show Temperature in the keypad programming section, and that keypad will display the temperature reading of its own sensor. The temperature data from that keypad sensor can also be used in your rules. So you can see an example on the screen here where I'm checking every 30 minutes, and if the temperature is less than 65 degrees, I'm making an adjustment to the thermostat. That's just one example of how you may do that. But with the keypad temperature and just temperature in general, you're always using that in a comparative and statement, so your whenever is going to be how frequently you check that. You can't, in a whenever statement, call the temperature up. That temperature reading is always called up in an and statement in your rule. Alright, F keys. Now, all of our keypad models offer F keys. Some of the keypads, like the larger KP, KPB keypads, have 6 function keys. Our smaller keypads, like the KP2, KP3, have 4 function keys. You can access all 6 function keys from both the navigator and the arming station. So every keypad has the capability to have these function keys, and they can be programmed in 2 different ways. One way is through the keypad programming section. You have your F key, your definable key section, and there's an activates event column, and that's how you set up things like a panic button, or if you want to assign an automation task to a key, as you see in the screenshot there. The automation task must also be defined in a rule, so you set, like in the example here, F4 set for task 1, we still have to have a rule to say what task 1 does. The other way to program an F key is just by defining it directly with a rule. So we can just say whenever the F5 key on a particular keypad or any keypad activates, then we can do something like in my example here, we're disabling the non-alarm voice messages. So that's the 2 basic ways that you define what the key does. This section, if you want to have the key require a code entry or you want it just to be a single press, you can make those selections here, and then you've also got a place to put in a name, which is what's going to show up on the keypad when you press the key. So that's a good thing to put in place to make sure you're naming those to make it intuitive for your customer to use. The other part of the F key is the illumination event, and this is what actually controls the backlight of the F key. So you can have that follow a particular event. Basic example there would be like with your police alarm, you want that to actually follow that alarm condition, so when it's activated the key lights up. You can also have that follow the state of a zone or an output or the arm status. Maybe you want to have a quick view of, what if another area is armed, you can have the key follow the arm status. The checkbox options allow you to invert the light and also cause the light to blink. We're like, say for instance in this example for the F4 key, we're following output 10 state. Left as is there, the light will light when the output's on. Now if we wanted it to be the opposite of that, we could choose invert light and it would be lit when the output's off and not lit when the output's on. So you can have it work either way there just by making that selection. So this is the way that you set those illumination events. The illumination events cannot be controlled through rules. Okay. Before we go too much further, I just want to check and see if there's any quick questions that we may need to answer before I get into the next subject.
There are no questions at this time, but I do want to remind everyone that if you do have a question, please send that over and we will get that hopefully answered throughout the webinar. Thank you.
Okay, so another really useful thing that we can do with keypads is display a text message on the keypad, and this can be great for simple reminders and also important notifications. So the first part of getting that to work is actually setting up the text message in the text section, which you'll find under automation in the LRP software. There you can just create new text strings and just enter the text that you want to see on the keypad. At the bottom of the screen here on this text string field, we've got these two boxes, and you can see part of my message shows up in one and the other part shows up in the other. This is to help you see what it's going to look like on the keypad, so that if it's going to break and scroll between these two boxes and it's going to leave one letter of your your third word there in the first box and it's going to look weird, you can space it out. You can see here I have about 2 spaces in between smoke and sensor to get that spaced out correctly where it's going to scroll properly on the keypad. So that's just a helpful way for you to make sure that's going to look the way that you want it to. So you set up your text strings, and that's the first step, and then the second step is to write rules to tell the system when to display that particular message. So looking here at the example that I have on the screen, we're looking at 6:15 p.m. and it's the first day of multiple of 2 is going to be every other month. We're going to send a message to the keypad to remind us to change our water filter. This is a nice simple reminder example. So you can see here, this is the then screen where you're making this selection. You can pick your message from the drop-down box, pick the area that you want it to display in. You also have some other options like making the keypad beep when this message is displayed, allowing the user to clear it with the star key. And then you can also select if you want it to just display until something's done, or if you just want it to display for a certain amount of time. So those are the options that you have with that. And there are a lot of different things that you can do with that. I've got some examples here, and I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail on each one of these. You'll be getting a copy of this, and if you have questions you can let me know. But just to kind of get your gears turning on some of the stuff that you can do with this. So the first one there is my replace water filter option, and again that's happening every other month by using that multiple of 2 option. Another thing that you might find helpful is displaying your company information on the keypad. Maybe that's something that you just want to do periodically, or you only want to do that in a certain event, but in this example we're just every 5 minutes we're pushing that information to the keypad for a few seconds just to make it handy for the customer in case they should need to contact you. They'll have the contact information handy there. I do want to take you back over to the webcam for just a moment, and I want to show you here is the navigator. Let me get this lined up here where you can see it. The navigator has a nice feature related to your contact information, and I just want to show you that real quick. So if we hit the menu button, we can then go to information, and here you can display your contact information. You can see this hasn't been set up yet, but you could put your name, company name, way for the customer to contact you. Now how you actually get that information entered here, if you go into installation programming, and I bumped the camera there, let me just enter my default code 1728339, and now I can go to next page and edit installer information, and this is going to allow me to key in the information that I want to have here. So that's where you go in and edit that, but then you can see you can display quite a bit more information that way on the navigator, so that's a nice feature it offers. Other examples, again, showing a temperature reading. Say you have zone temperature sensors and you want to display, say the outside temperature is what I'm showing in the example, then you can do that. And the text string box makes that very easy for you. There are drop-down boxes on that text string box that would allow you to select temperature sensor reading and then that zone, and that's where you get this kind of odd looking thing here. You don't have to know what that is. You just make those selections from drop-down boxes. So we've tried to make it as easy as we can for you. Another example might be reminders for smoke detectors to replace or check the batteries. I have some rules here set up to do that on the first day of March and the first day of October at 5:30 p.m. So that, again, just another example of a reminder message. And you may want to provide some kind of instruction during an alarm event, like say you want to display central station telephone number on the keypad, you can do that. And so you can see in the bottom there I've got 3 rules doing that. The first one is actually sending the message and alarm, and the second 2 rules allow us to have that 2-minute delay before the message is cleared from the keypad after the alarm's turned off. So, just some examples there. I want to go over one other example, and again, I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail of explaining exactly all of the particulars of these rules, but again, just to kind of get your gears turning on some of the stuff that you can do. We've kind of tied in using, the F keys we've been talking about and the text to the keypad we've been talking about. So this is an example of a pull alert using a number of rules and making use of both the F key and sending text to the keypad. So basically we have a key that the F4 key is going to turn this feature on and off. And also be the reset when the feature is activated, and we have a zone that we're monitoring. When that zone's tripped and this feature is turned on, then we're getting this pool area alert announcement, and also display on the keypad. And again, it's within that text, we're using that to instruct the customer to press the F4 key to cancel that. And again, this is just an example. If you're interested in doing something like a pull alert, you should check the regulations or ordinances in your area, because it can vary from area to area how exactly it should function, the timing, what it should do, that sort of thing. And of course there's a lot of flexibility in the M1 to meet those different needs for different areas. So just keep that in mind, and again, if you need help setting it up to meet your regulations, just give us a call and we'll get you steered in the right direction there. Here's another subject that comes up pretty frequently. The keypads themselves are assigned to a single area, and that's the area that they operate. There isn't a global assignment for a keypad to operate all areas. However, we have built into our keypads a menu to allow you to either temporarily change the assignment of the keypad or just to have a quick view of all the areas, and it's really easy to get into that. So what you're going to be doing there is just pressing the ELK key, and that's going to show you the view control automation functions, and down arrow will take you to menu 0. Now you do have to enter a code to go into menu 0, and the code that you enter, the areas that particular user is assigned to is going to dictate what they're allowed to do and what they see from that point on. So once you enter the code, it's going to show you that you can change the keypad area. You can either key in a number there, like if you wanted to change it to area 2, you can just press 2, or you can actually just go ahead and leave it at 0 and press the right arrow key, and then you're going to get this quick view here. And I've got an example here. The X shows you the current area. The A means that area 2 is armed in this example. Area 3 would be ready to arm. Area 4 is not ready to arm, and the dash in areas 5, 6, 7, and 8 would indicate that the user code that was entered is not authorized in areas 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's just an example of what it might look like depending on the particular user code that you enter. If you do choose at this point where it says change keypad area, say if you put in a 2 there, then you're going to get a screen, a ready or a not ready, showing what's actually going on in that area. The keypad's going to display information as if it were assigned to that area, and it will operate that area, just like it were assigned to it. That is, however, a temporary assignment of the area, and the keypad will return to its original permanently assigned area 60 seconds after you stop pressing buttons. So that's something that can be very useful in multi-area systems. Another helpful thing that keypads can do for us is display diagnostic information. And this is something that a lot of people overlook or just aren't aware that's there, and they'll call into tech support and we'll be like, oh, go into this menu and take a look at this for me, and they're, it's exciting to see, oh, I didn't know that information was there. So let me just step you through this menu here on the keypad. If I press the ELK key and then press 8, that's going to take me to system settings. I'm going to right arrow into that, and again it's looking for a code here. I'm going to go ahead and put in the installer code. A master user code would also work in this menu, and you're going to come up at 81 set system clock. So Another thing, if you're ever wondering how to set the clock, this is how you do it. You could right arrow into that, and you can set the date and time here, and that is set in 24-hour format. So, but to take you back to what I was going to show you, if you press 6 here, it takes you to System Diagnostics. You can right arrow into that, and you can see here data bus errors. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about each of the things that are available in this menu. Data bus errors are normal. There are going to be some errors on the data bus, and having some errors is not an indication of a problem necessarily. But what we're looking for, if you're running into issues with your data bus, it seems like you have a device that's dropping out, or it's just doing some weird stuff, you may want to come to this screen and just take a look at what's here. If you see that the errors are accumulating, and this screen does update in real time, so you can see here I've got 10 errors since the last time I powered this up, and they're not coming in at any incredible frequency, but this particular error, T1 is type 1, let me get my hand out of the way there, and then A2 is the address, so that is type 1 is a keypad, and then A2 would be the address 2, so that's actually referring to my address 2 keypad, which is this keypad that we're looking at right now, was the last one to send in an error. If you see like you're getting a lot of errors, like they're accumulating, you can actually see them counting up on this screen, and they're always coming from the same device. And again, this T1A1 shows you the last device to send in an error, then that's an indication of a problem. So this is probably something that when you are using this, you're going to be on with tech support, but it is something to be aware of. You can take a look at this and get some good information. The next option, and again I'm just using my up arrow key to scroll through the different options in this diagnostic menu, is going to be your system voltage and current. And so that's just going to show you what you've got going on right now. So you can see my system is outputting 13.9 volts, and I am drawing 330 milliamps from the system with the devices that are being powered from it. So this is a good screen to look at if you seem to be having some kind of power issues, or if you just want to see if maybe you're drawing too much current from the panel. You can see, if this goes above 1 amp here, you need to get some some things powered from an auxiliary supply like our P212S, which is a supervised power supply on the M1 data bus. And you can even see there as my keypad dimmed, that current draw dropped just a little bit, so you can see this is giving you real-time data. It's a very helpful screen. This is probably one of the most helpful things that I find in this particular menu of the keypad, displaying zone voltages. And so you can go in here and you can just see, like on my zone 1, it's showing 13.7 volts right now, and it will give you your high and low readings. And this is some kind of decimal representation, the A252. I'm not really sure that that's useful to us, but the 13.7 volts certainly is. What that tells us is that right now zone 1 is open. So a 13.8 neighborhood is an open circuit, 0 volts would be a short circuit, and 7.2 volts would be showing at the end of line resistor. So you can use this as a diagnostic tool to see the state of the zone at a particular time, which can be helpful if you're having a problem with the sensor or a broken wire, that sort of thing. This can kind of help you determine what the panel is seeing at that time. And the next menu available here is the last on-hook line voltage. So as we're looking at this here on my screen, you can see that it's seeing 0 volts. It does not see a phone line going into the panel. So if you had a phone line connected to the panel, this would definitely be a sign of some kind of problem, possibly a wiring issue. Go back and check your RJ31X, that sort of thing. In my case, I simply do not have a phone line connected to the panel, so this is actually reading what I would expect here, but this can also be helpful in troubleshooting. And then finally, we have the M1 XEP enrolled screen. The M1 XEP does have to be enrolled, and you do that through the bus module enrollment. But because it's not actually a data bus device, it's not going to show up as a bus module when you do the enrollment. So this screen is to allow you to see if it is in fact enrolled, and it also shows you a ping count every 30 seconds. The M1 sends a little signal out to the M1 XEP, are you still there? The XEP replies back, and so that's what you're seeing on this screen. But again, can be very helpful in troubleshooting. And to get out of this, I'm just going to press the star key. And those menus will stay up on the screen much longer than other menus since they are for diagnostic purposes. They won't necessarily time out quickly like some of the other screens do. I know we went over a lot there, and there may be some questions, or maybe there's some more detail, or there's something that someone was hoping to see in this webinar that we didn't cover. Now would be the time to let us know. Do you have any questions?
Amy, I want to give you a hand because you have explained everything so perfectly that I have no questions right now. So if people do have questions, you can definitely still send us your questions and we can answer them. But this is very odd that we don't have any questions because we usually do. So so while we're waiting on questions, if anyone has questions, we do want to inform you that we have given our website homepage a facelift, and we are launching that on Monday. And so definitely come to our website next week and just check out the new user-friendly facelift that we have given our website. Some of the other pages have gotten a facelift too. So definitely go on our website next week, click around, get used to it. And then also another thing is our Make Me Famous campaign. We are still doing it. So if you have your M1 installs, send us pictures of your installs and we will post them on all of our social media sites in addition to our website and newsletter. If you get our newsletter through email, you can see that we have been posting all those installs each month in our Hall of Fame. So definitely send those to Amy, myself, training@elkproducts.com, and we will definitely post them. So while I was talking so much, I got so many questions. So if we don't get to them, Amy will answer them at the end of the webinar when she sends out her follow-up email. So the first one is, I have a question about access control keypads. Can I load codes in one central location for the regained enabled keypads?
Well, each credential gets learned into the system as a user. So let me just hop into ElkRP here and I'll give you a quick look at that. While I'm pulling that up, I did want to point out one thing that's kind of a thing people ask me about. You can see, if you're looking in the webcam, you can see this little, well, it just went away. There's a little icon that will show up on the keypads that looks like a little square or a clock spinning around. There's a timer running in the background that allows you back into code-protected menus for a certain period of time without the need to re-enter the code. That's all that really is. But folks ask me about that sometimes, so I thought I would go ahead and point it out. I saw it there, and as soon as I started talking about it, it disappeared. Let's just go ahead and set up a couple users here. So we're just going to set up 2 users. So we're looking at user 2, and let's just say this is an access user. So typically with a normal user, you would put your 4-digit code here, your 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it might be. But when you're using an access credential, you're going to select this box here that says user has access credential instead of code, and that opens up the site code and card/pin number. So for an access keypad, the site code is going to be either a fixed value or it's going to be programmable within that keypad. You just need to match whatever's in that particular access keypad here. And then the number that you want or your user wants to key in on that keypad is the card/pin. So let's just say we had a site code of 1 and our pin number was 88552. We'll just say 8855. You can't go above 65535 on 5-digit numbers, but at any rate, you see how when I've entered this information in, I now have this rather odd-looking representation of that data, and that's how the users are stored in the M1. So you can use the ElkRP software to set those up relatively easily. Now, alternately, you can learn codes in from the keypad that the reader is connected to. And I don't actually have a reader connected to this particular keypad, but just to show you how that would work, you would press the ELK key, and then 6 is going to take you into the Change User Codes menu. You can right arrow into that, and of course you do have to have either installer or master user level to get into this. But so then you can go, let's just say, to user 3 and change, and of course there's no code here, but at that point you would just go to that access keypad that's connected to this keypad and enter the code that you want, and the again, the hex representation will then show up here, and that's how you'll know that you've learned it in. So that's the 2 different ways you could go about doing that.
Okay, another question that I have is, what size system would you recommend using in an ELK access control platform for?
What size system would you use M1 for access control? Is that basically the question?
Yeah, we can answer that afterwards.
Okay. Just to address what I thought the question was very briefly, the M1 system is limited to 16 points of access and 199 users, so it's definitely not going to be for large-scale access control. You are looking at smaller scale for the M1 to handle that.
Another question I have is, can you program messages from the keypad itself or only through RP software?
Text messages being pushed to the keypad do require RP programming because you need to set up the text and the rules. So again, here in the RP software is where you would set up the text, like if you wanted to say take out the trash and you wanted to send that reminder to yourself, you can just type that in. And here's what I was talking about with that box. You can see, you know, maybe I just need to take the word "the" out to get that to display correctly. But you have to do this, and then you have to write the rule to say when that should happen. So just to follow through with my example here, I'm just going to say every day at 7:15, but then of course the trash doesn't come every day, so I'm going to specify it comes on Monday and Friday. Then I'm going to send this text to the keypad. And so that's how quickly and easily you can build those sort of things.
Hey Amy, can you show them how to adjust volume on the keypad?
Yes. Okay, so if you go into, press the ELK key and then 8 will take you to System Settings. Right arrow into this menu, and you can see here, because I went into programming just a moment ago, it's not asking me to put my code in again. That's what that little timer I was talking about a moment ago was. But here you can do 2 different things. Now if you're wanting to adjust the voice volume, which again comes from output 1, not from the keypads, but you do have the option to adjust that volume here. Up arrow again, and you're going to get your keypad adjustments. So we right arrow into that menu, and here we can actually change a couple of things. So the tone, and you may be able to hear, you know, as I'm pressing that, how that's changing. That's one thing that you can change. ELK key acts as a back key when you're in a menu, so now I'm back to that. I want to go up to keypad beep volume, and here I can increase or decrease the volume. And again, ELK once I get it the way I want it, and then you also have your LCD backlight adjustment, and this adjusts the level when it's not at full bright. And so those are the adjustments that you have for the keypad from the keypad. Now you will also find, if you're programming in the ELK RP software, you will also find these items here. If you're looking on the screen now, backlight, tone, and volume adjustments can be made per keypad within the software as well.
Can you also show them about the chime sound type, like how to adjust those?
Well, each keypad, as far as the sound that the chime makes, it's going to make that particular sound. You can't really change the sound that the chime makes. You can turn the chime on and off with the chime button, and so you can hear that sound is the sound that this particular keypad is going to make when the chime is activated. Alternately, if I hop back over here to see if I can get that to get in focus here. Yeah, I can adjust the chime on this one as well. And you hear that beep beep is the sound that it makes. And the chime is turned on and off by area. So as far as adjusting the chime tones, they are what they are per keypad.
Okay. We are running out of time, everyone, and so we want to just thank you again for attending our webinar. And those questions that were not answered, we will answer them in our follow-up email that will be sent out on Monday. We are sending out a survey right after the webinar, so please stick around for that and answer some questions. We would love some feedback. So thank you so much for attending.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy Friday. Have a good weekend.